Good, sir. Bim.
Absolutely. What's going on? Good morning,
Good
Uncle
morning,
Freezie. The
man.
funniest thing is, as you're doing the introduction, I'm remembering that we've been talking behind the scenes for the last 20 minutes.
Right. And y'all, and listen, and I was tinkering. Like y'all know, I'm always tinkering with stuff, right? So I'm tinkering with OBS, thinking about how I can make this presentation look better, how we can, you know what I'm saying, how we can rock, so to speak.
I was going
AD
to
being
ask you
mad
though,
patient
but
with me.
how can we be better than ourselves?
Bruh, I don't think we can. I don't think we can. This right here is like you and I, when we talk old school Knicks, is like being in a press conference with Sugar Ray Leonard and Hector Macho Camacho, right?
Mm,
Like who was going to be the smoothest on the microphone? And I feel
mm.
like you the Sugar Ray of this thing, bro. Nobody can beat AD when it comes to this stuff, right? But we try. We try to at least, you know what I'm saying, at least
Well,
try to do a little something, something. Let me
well,
shout out. Let me shout out the chat, man, real quick. Sherman
absolutely.
is in the building. Varsity Customs, what's good? Andrew College, Jerry Fitz is in the building. East Blue Drew, Corey Lee is in the building. Will Salk is in the building. What's good, everybody?
Salute,
Let's
salute,
get this thing
salute.
started, bro. Because I think we want to. I think there are two conversations we need to have that we have not had.
Okay.
Like
What are
one.
what are those two, Uncle Freezy? Blue Freezy.
All right.
I can't let we can't let y'all in on that one. Like
Yeah. This is
that's blue
definitely
Freezy.
rated G Uncle Freezy right here. Yeah. So the first one is, who is Charles Oakley to a Knicks fan, and the other is, how come Isaiah Thomas's regime often gets swept under the rug by Knicks fans, except in passing comments? I would like to start with Charles Oakley first.
Okay.
Dominic is in the building. What's good, Dominic? What's happening?
Salute, Dominic.
Um, who was Charles Oakley to me? I don't know, boss. I ain't even gonna hold you.
What do you mean you don't know? What kind of Freezy? You've been a Nick fan for.
Yep.
For you not to have anything to say after the monologue introduction, go absolutely flat air dead space on Charles Oakley's contribution to the New York Knicks is disrespectful.
Is he a top 10 Knicks forward of all time? No.
He's a top 4 forward of all time.
No.
Easy.
No.
What are we talking
No. Get
about?
on.
Stop
Are
it.
we serious?
Are we holding on? Are we? Let me be serious.
You know, holding on is
Hold
very
on.
hard to
Let me.
do when the love is gone. I'm just saying. Holding on is very hard to do.
When the love is gone.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And that's no lie.
Mm-hmm. Freezing. How could the love ever be gone for Charles Oakley? I get it. He says over the last few years he's been like a 3-headed cobra.
Yes.
He's been very mean, very bitter.
Right.
Every other adjective you could find to
Right.
go along with that, whatever, when it comes to, you know how he feels about the Knicks and so forth, and in particular Ewing. But
Right.
the 10 years, 10, not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, 10.
I thought you was gonna go electric company. I thought you was gonna go electric company. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah.
Well, I would have said 10 crack commandments, but that's a whole nother situation.
That's another thing too.
That's another thing. But the 10 years that spans the entire 90s.
Yep.
Starts in the late 80s, spans up until 90s, up until when you made what was a good trade, a good transition to Marcus Camby.
Right. It was
no
an excellent
shame
trade.
in that.
It was an
Excellent transition.
Yep.
A lot of teams don't do that. We saw that with Boston, right? They held on to those guys until it was, way too late.
Way too late.
But for that Grunfeld check.
And Boston does that historically too. Boston will do that historically. They will hold on.
But they can do that. They can do that because they got rings. No, those guys got rings.
Yeah.
So if nothing else, those rings means you get to sit around and kick your feet up for a minute.
They held on to Tommy Heinsohn, JoJo White. All of them got cornbread. Oh God!
Because all they got to do is go like this when they.
Yeah, y'all look up at the ceiling. Look up at the ceiling. That's all you gotta do. Yeah, our resume is up there in the ceiling.
But with the Oakley situation, for you not to have, or for you and anyone else who feels like you, it's disrespectful.
Is it disrespectful? Because think about it, because there's levels to this. Is it disrespectful to the player? Is it disrespectful to his contribution in a team concept, right? Because that's different. Because I can dislike Oakley and appreciate also his contribution to the team, right? Or is it disrespectful to his legacy as a Knick, right? And I know those are all three things that seem like they're the same, but human beings have complex emotions and thoughts, right? We don't always think about things. That's why conversations are hard sometimes, because we want to speak to a certain thing, but we feel some type of way. And we say it that way because we don't always know what that type of way is. You know what I'm saying? For instance,
you didn't say anything in your first 30 seconds. Yeah,
I know.
You didn't say none of that. You didn't give us not one of those. It was just, I've got no words.
Right.
No
and let me say this to Chris.
Speaks to something deeper.
Let me say this to Chris, though. Chris, man, I'm sorry about hearing about your family being sick, man. I hope everybody get well, man. Get well soon.
Yeah, for real.
Right. I will say this about Oakley. Oakley is complex. That's why I have to take a deep breath before I say something reckless about Oakley. Because we don't want to say anything reckless about Charles Oakley. Right? Not because I fear who he is, because I don't care. I don't care.
We know you. He can get these hands. We know.
Oakley.
We know. I got money on you, Freezie.
Oakley.
I got money. He got you by about 4 inches, but I got money.
Right. But yeah, Oakley Oakley is a winner, and see, I'm a perennial loser. I'm like the dude that get beat up in the Rocky movies, bro. I don't have nothing to lose, and those are the most dangerous people.
Those are the most dangerous people. Oh my God, Uncle Freezie.
If I win, I'm the dude that overcame Barkley. If I lose, I go back home and live my regular life. You know what I'm saying? Okay. You know what I mean? Okay. But anyway, the thing about Oakley is this. I feel like Charles Oakley is that dude that on one level could have been so much more, but on another level sacrificed so much that you have to respect him either way. Right? Like, could Charles Oakley have been a 23-12 guy in the NBA? In my opinion, I always thought yes. Could Charles Oakley have been that guy that averaged, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22 points a game? Yes. But Oakley chose, to his credit, Oakley chose defensive rating over offensive rating. Right? And that is what helped teams win in his era. Do you want to win or do you want to pad stats? And my belief I think if Oakley would have chose the offensive route, he would have been a great story in the NBA, but he would not have had the impact on the Knicks like he had as a defensive player. Because if you remember Charles Oakley out of Virginia Union, Charles Oakley was a scoring machine, bro. Right? Charles Oakley could score, right? The only thing about it is scoring at Virginia Union and scoring in the NBA is different, right?
Correct.
And so, and you don't get drafted in the first round of the NBA draft out of Virginia Union in an era when a lot of scouting departments were just scouting big schools and magazines. Oh, this name. Oh, he's 6'10", 240. Let's bring him in. Sight, you bring it, you draft them sight unseen. That's how they used to draft back in the day with all those rounds in the draft. But Charles Oakley was a dude that was drafted in the first round, right? And the Pat Ewing draft, one of the deepest drafts ever, right? But when you look at Oakley, that's why I'm always like, what do I make of Oakley? I think my man is complex, bro. I don't want to talk about how saucy, like how he always talks saucy about people. I don't care nothing about that. Right? What I care about is Charles Oakley played 19 years in the NBA as the number 9 pick by the Cleveland Cavaliers, who immediately shifted him to Chicago. Right? This dude, Charles Oakley, was drafted over a media darling. You remember Ed Pinckney?
Yeah.
At the time,
he should have been.
At the time, Ed Pinckney was a media darling, bro.
Yeah, but Charles is a better player. Even Ed is a media darling. I don't know if nothing necessarily media darling, but Villanova was a media darling. Yeah,
right.
Villanova,
and he was the best player for that team.
Yeah,
at the time when the Big East was almost as big as the NBA.
Yeah, it's hard to call a black man a media darling.
Yeah, I mean,
especially back then, especially Ed.
But this is 1985 when the Big East is one of the big.
They are, but Ed peaked basically in the championship game.
Pretty much. Yeah. Okay. Yep, I'll give you that. And Ed was undersized and not athletic.
And Ed is like 6'9", 9-ish, maybe 10-ish, but Ed, wasn't. I never saw Ed was going to be that player or a major contributor in the NBA. I never felt that from Ed. I never felt that from any of their players on that team.
From Villanova?
From Villanova, to be honest with you. Maybe Harold, what's his name? Harold Presley?
Harold Presley, he played for the Utah Jazz?
Yeah, maybe Harold Presley. I thought.
Oh, was that Paul Presley?
No, not Paul, but Harold. I think it's Harold Presley. His name was, but I never felt that from that team. They were just a good college team,
right?
That was superior on a particular Monday night,
right.
And Oakley was a better ball player than Pickney, especially at Virginia Union. From what you wanted, the package of Charles Oakley coming into the NBA was not a surprise. It was not a surprise. It wasn't like this kid was going to come to the NBA and be anything other than himself.
Man, that dude averaged like 30 and 20 at Virginia Union, bro.
Yeah, but
let me get the exact numbers. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but how they played, in college, as you said before, and what was going to be expected of him going into the NBA was different. And he did have his moments offensively. He was just never going to be the main focus. Look at the two teams that he plays with his first 13 years.
Michael
Jordan,
okay,
Patrick Ewing.
Right. I get it, man. But Charles Oakley, in the year he was drafted at Virginia Union, averaged 24 points and 17 rebounds, bro.
Yeah, but that's college. We've seen a
God
lot of
almighty, he
dudes.
was
We've seen Kurt Thomas was. I think Kurt Thomas his last year in college. I think he was 20 and 20, or he led the nation in scoring and in
and
rebounding.
rebounding. Yep. Yep.
Kurt Thomas
Yeah.
was never that dude in the NBA. He just could do a nice little mid range jumper, but to stay onto the topic, Oakley was gonna be that guy. Not when your first 13 years in the NBA. Look who you're playing with. You're playing with two of the greatest ball players to ever play the game.
Right.
One the greatest, and another one in the top whatever.
The top 5 center of all time, bro. In my opinion.
In my opinion as well.
Yeah, I don't think Pat gets the credit that he deserves.
Oh boy, here we go.
Right, Pat Ewing carried a duffel bag full of dead bodies to multiple NBA title runs.
Are you saying this because of the disrespect that he's been shown from Oakley? Is that the correlation that you're making?
No.
Okay.
No,
you're
not
saying
at all.
You're saying just in general. But what do you feel about the disrespect that Oakley has shown to Ewing over these years? I
think is a combination of bitter old man with a dab of revisionist history. Right. So I don't like for instance, I can lie to you. One of my uncles, man, tells this story, right? It's the funniest thing you ever want to hear in your life.
Mm-hmm.
My uncle is like, he goes to a workout for the Cincinnati Reds, and it's raining. It had been raining for like 3 straight days, but the sun come out on this one day, and so he's working out for the Reds.
Big Red Machine era.
Yes, pre Big Red Machine.
Pre Big Red Machine. All right, so we talking like late 60s, something like that.
Late 60s. This is Johnny Bench, young player era.
Mm-hmm.
My uncle goes to this workout, and the scout is like, "Man, I got to make a choice between you and this other cat we have named Geronimo. This dude's the real deal, right?" Now, mind you, the Geronimo dude, this dude is talking about. And this is my uncle telling the story. The Geronimo, this scout is talking about, wound up starting for the Big Red Machine the whole time. They whole run in the 70s. This dude, Geronimo. I think they say I think that's his name. I forget what his name is. Right. My uncle goes out there. They hit a ball in the gap. My uncle runs this ball down in the gap, and they tell my uncle to throw this ball to home on the fly. Right? Right? And so my uncle catches this ball on the fly, slides down, because mind you, though the sun is out, the field is still soaking wet. He slides and doesn't hit the ground, but hops up and throws a dart to home plate from about 310 feet. The ball bounces right in front of home plate and slides on this wet ground and bounces up to the catcher. The catcher drops the ball. And the scout is like, "Man, listen, if you can't make that throw from 300 feet, bro, you're not gonna, we need guys that can make this throw." Right? Now, mind you, major leaguers don't make throws that far, bro. I know baseball, and my uncle knows baseball, right? My uncle knows baseball. My uncle was one of the best baseball players in the state of South Carolina during the 60s, right?
Okay.
Right. They do it again.
I love baseball too, man. Baseball is like my baseball and boxing. Maybe baseball is like 2, like 1B. Love baseball, yo.
I love baseball better. I love arguing about boxing more, though.
Yeah, that's how baseball was just. You could get a bowl of Captain Crunch and start from the first inning, right, and be able, like, all right, by the 5th inning, I'll be able to get my second bowl.
Them.
My second ball would take me for the rest of the
And talk strategy.
Yeah.
The whole time.
Ball was just
the whole time.
You could sit down and watch. I can't. My friend said to me now, like, yo, my love now for baseball it's not there. It hasn't been there in like a long time. Maybe.
Well,
like
we have a Mets channel now, right? So we have a Mets channel called All Mets Up, right?
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I have a Mets channel.
I can come on and talk about your dysfunctional past for you. I'm pretty versed on Mets history.
Yeah, man. So we could talk about Hubie Brooks and Hubie Brooks and Joe Youngblood and Lee Mazzilli and Rusty Staub.
Mo Vaughn.
Oh my God! you know what I call him, man? Every time I see him, I call him Move On.
Roberto Alomar. I could come
man.
on and give a couple of Kevin McReynolds. The Mets. The funniest thing is that the Mets destroyed their own dynasty, which should have been a dynasty.
Right.
That 80s team.
Yeah.
So that 80s team was good enough outside of Carter getting older.
Yep.
And Hernandez
getting
older. That team, the pitching staff alone, you should have, because everybody else, but they didn't. Well, they did know Doc's problems internally. They knew Doc's problems, but you could have gotten rid of Doc and you still had El Cid,
Ron Darling, Rick
Aguilera, Bobby
Ojeda. Yep.
Just eventually they just started making some silly maneuvers like Vince Coleman.
Yeah. Yeah. Like bringing in Juan Samuel in 90.
And bringing in Juan Samuel for Roger McDowell and Lynn Dykstra. It was Juan Samuel was a talented ball player with Philly.
Right.
Let's not get it twisted. Talented ball playing twisted, but he wasn't that fabric. He didn't.
I wanted Pedro Guerrero. If the Mets were going to trade Lynn Dykstra, I wanted Pedro Guerrero from the Dodgers, number 20.
Yeah,
I love Pedro.
There's
Guerrero.
a name. There's a name that you. When's the last time you heard somebody mention the name Pedro Guerrero?
Pedro Guerrero
with the Dodgers.
Yep, that's
what. What?
Yep, that's who I wanted. That's who I wanted. And there was another name. There were some other guys that I wanted. Like if you're gonna see, the thing is, the Mets got really old really fast, and our prospects. What happened is, and I'm gonna get back to the Charles Oakley thing and my uncle, because there's a linchpin I want to put together, and it'll sum up the reason why I feel about this thing about Oakley. But what happened is, the Mets went from hitting on all their draft picks to missing on all their draft picks. Right? We missed on a draft pick in 84. He was a bust. 85. See, but think about this. The number one pick in the draft in 1980 was Darryl Strawberry. Darryl Strawberry was the number one pick in the draft in 1980. Right? Darryl Strawberry gets fed up with New York and leaves and goes signs with the Dodgers. The worst mistake he ever made. He admitted that. He admitted to it.
Well, New York didn't want him anymore either. Cashman and the Mets, that's the truth. They didn't want him anymore.
Right.
They weren't gonna pay him that money.
We wanted him to be a star, and he wanted to be a guy. And the thing is think about when Strawberry came up. When Darryl Strawberry came up, he was the young, talented prodigy that was added to a group of talented players that was coming up. The Wally Backmans, the Tim Tuffles, the Kevin Mitchells, the Mookie Wilsons. As a matter of fact, we had to trade away guys like Hubie Brooks, who is still one of my favorite Mets of all time. But we had to trade away guys like Hubie Brooks and Joe Youngblood just to make room for them young guys to play. Right? The thing is, the Mets self-destructed because a complication of talent. And I know that sounds weird, but that's where the Knicks are right now. A complication of talent is going to cause this Knicks roster to trade away some guys, and they're going to wind up blossoming somewhere else.
Yeah, but you don't hold it right there for a second, Freezy. You don't get to slide over that Mets transition there with Darryl so easy. Darryl lost out on the MVP race that year, his last year with the Mets, because of his relationship with the media and so forth.
Right.
They didn't
Yep.
like him. He didn't like them.
Yep.
They voted for, I can't remember who they voted for won the MVP. I think was it Kirk Gibson?
Which are you talking about? 88?
Right.
Kirk Gibson.
Was it Kirk Gibson that won
Kirk
the
Gibson.
MVP?
Kirk Gibson Pumpkin. Kirk
Right.
Gibson.
But Kirk had a monster year. Kirk has.
Nah, bro. No,
Let's understand this.
He had a clutch season, but he didn't have a monster season.
Let's understand this. Kirk Gibson has a moment forever.
And that entire season was that.
Yeah, but he has an individual moment forever when he comes off the bench against Dennis Eckersley. What's that? Game 1, I think. Is that game 1?
That's game one. Yep.
And he's hurt. You know, he. It's like you can't write this. You can't write how it's about to go down. You know what I mean? It's like some shit you've seen in The Natural.
Right.
You know what I mean? He's hurt. The blood on the side, you know.
Yep.
Swagger is coming out, you know. He strike.
Right.
And then he gets his pitch. I think,
Eckersley.
It might have been the first pitch.
Yep. Eckersley. No, he fouled him off. He fouled him off.
Did foul him off? Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
He fouled him off, and Eckersley tried to do that side arm backdoor slider that everybody knew he threw.
Yeah.
But
he was dominant with it though.
Yep. He was dominant. He was dominant. Yeah, he was dominant with it.
Before Mariano.
Yeah.
Eck was it.
Yep. Him and Raleigh Fingers.
Eck was it.
And Bruce.
But and those cats like that, and Lee Smith, and you know,
Goose Gossage, all them dudes like that.
But I mean, for that period right there, that early to mid 90s, Eck was it. Like, I mean, those late 80s to that right early 92, 93,
right.
You know, with those Oakland A's teams that should have won more.
Yeah. Charlie Finley messed that up.
Well, both their franchises, the Charlie Finley franchise and the late 80s, 90s Jose Canseco, Ricky Henderson.
Sandy Alderson.
Yeah.
Sandy Alderson messed that up.
Yeah, they should have won at least another one.
They should have lost to the Giants, but I think that Earthquake World Series messed them up.
It shook up. You remember that?
Yeah.
I was looking up like sports disasters because I wanna just give my thoughts, you know, and so forth, and you know, prayers to get well. You know, the young brother in Buffalo.
Buffalo, yeah.
When it comes to like live sports disasters, what's the brother's name again?
I forget his name, bro. But number 3 for the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah. Is it Damian Hamlin?
I think something like that. Yeah.
Something to that.
DeMar Hamlin.
Right. You know, which, and I saw that, but people don't even remember that there was another dude that had died like some 50, 60 years ago back in the day. You know, some dude, I think his name was Chuck Hughes or something like that.
Yeah.
Some wide receiver. This is the thing when it comes to football and contact sport like that. You know, it's not regular to see something like that, but it's a part of the deal.
Okay.
Because especially football is high. It's not normal for another human being, another man, to run that fast, that hard into another human being.
You're running 20 miles per hour, which doesn't sound fast, but you're running 20 miles per hour and launching yourself into a brick wall. Basically, that's what football is. 20 miles per hour. And now, as a human, 20 miles per hour, you're like, oh, man, my car, you know what I'm saying, 20 miles per hour, that ain't nothing. School zone, 25. Bro, when human beings are on foot, 20 miles per hour, bro, It's crazy. Let me shout out to Jay Boogie. Thank you for the generous contribution. Jay Boogie says
Jay Boogie.
that's the watch AD got on. I was talking about in the Christmas song when I said AD my wrist so you can keep watching. Shout out to Jay Boogie. Yeah,
Shout
man.
out to Jay Boogie.
Yeah, I got you. But let me because we got like 4 things open. We got the my uncle thing, the Oakley thing, the Mets dynasty, and the A's. What I want to do, and the football thing. What I want to say is this, though. When it comes to the Mets simply couldn't. They had a model that was not sustainable. They had a model where they were backfilling veterans with high-profile talent at the major league level, right? But what happened is when the Mets started winning, they started rising in the standings, but dropping in the lottery or the draft order. So instead of a no-brainer, Darryl Strawberry with the number 1 pick, right now you picking like 20. And now you got dudes like Tim Tuffle, right? Tim Tuffle, the situations had to be right for Tim Tuffle to be a star, right? Or you got Kevin Elster, who we thought should have been somebody, and he turned out. You got your Kevin Elster, your Wally Backman, your Howard Johnsons, your Rafael Santanas.
Yeah, but those guys are the croutons.
I understand.
To the salad.
Right.
When you let Darryl go, I understand them wanting to let Darryl go because hindsight is 20/20.
Right.
But you have to see it from an organizational standpoint. He was getting into a lot of situations, and he was unhappy here in New York.
Right.
And you also had Doc. It just wasn't. New York wasn't the place for them anymore.
Nah.
But I didn't think LA was the place for him neither.
Hell no.
I didn't think LA was the place.
And he from LA.
When I heard he was going to LA, I went,
it's over.
I said, I get it.
And LA
threw the bag at him, but I was like,
And they didn't just throw the bag at him, but they also threw the bag at Eric Davis.
Yeah, it just didn't. It was. Like,
I think Eric Davis signed with the Giants. It was something weird. It was like some kind of weird 2 homeboys came up and they were, you know what I'm saying. But my thing is though, AD is still you didn't have young players that can come in and backfill, right? Because you bring up Dykstra, you bring up Mookie Wilson. Mookie Wilson was a decent player, right? A decent player for the Mets. He was. For Mookie Wilson being a decent player, it always seemed like he was in the major Mets moments. That's why we think he was better than what he was.
Because he was.
Right. Mookie Wilson against the Astros. I mean, come on. Mookie Wilson in those pennant races against the Pirates and the St. Louis Cardinals. Right. Right. And also for those considering like the drug thing with Darryl Strawberry, remember that's the only reason we even got Keith Hernandez, because Keith Hernandez had to go to federal court about the cocaine use in Major League Baseball, and St. Louis traded him to the Mets. Right. St. Louis was like, yo, not because remember at the time the Anheuser-Busch family had an image to uphold, and so they couldn't have druggies on their team.
But it wasn't just St. Louis. It was Pittsburgh. It was rampant.
It was everywhere.
Remember this. Steve Howe.
Oh God.
Steve Howe got suspended like
11 times.
Like 80 times.
Yeah.
he literally
because of alcohol. Yeah.
The last time we saw him, the Yankees was trying to float him a check. And he was here for like a hot minute, struck out like 2 dudes. You hear them.
And went to the bullpen and got him a nip.
Steve, you're looking like something again, Steve. You're looking like you about to read. Next thing you know,
he's gone again.
Steve was like, yo, dude, gave him like 88 chances.
Yeah. And so did they Doc, what's the dude from Pittsburgh that the Yankees traded? Doc
Doc Ellis.
Doc Ellis, yeah, him too.
Doc
But
but Doc was just, oh my God, Doc's another that's a tragic baseball
yeah,
story. But Doc was
I
gonna,
mean, not now. Now he has a triumphant story about how he
right,
rehabbed,
right, how you rehab
and now he is telling a cautionary tale and saving lives now. But when he was a player, he didn't.
But at that time though, Freezie, you know what I mean? You in your moment.
Right.
And this what, folks don't understand, especially older people. We forget that when you young, your moment is your moment.
Right. Right.
And his moment is going to be different than ours because his moment comes with what? Comes with money.
Right.
Comes with you don't wait. Your publicist makes a call, you're in the hottest of spots.
Yeah. Yep.
You know what I mean? Like everything is first class.
Right. But that's that. But now your entourage actually works. Back then, all your entourage did was get you ladies and get you drugs and alcohol or whatever.
Right, because your entourage is kind of different now. Now LeBron, now you know about, now the entourage wants to be known.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like back then, the entourage didn't want to be known.
Nah, they just want the party.
They just want to party.
Right.
They just want to.
I told AD a story before we got started about my entourage, my one night entourage. I had an entourage one night, and I said, I'll never do this ever again. Ever.
Freezie. Blue Freezie.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So but just to put a pin on the Oakley thing, I think Charles Oakley is one of those men that realized that he had the talent to be something utterly better than what he showed. But in the moment, he sacrificed for the greater good, and the greater good didn't achieve the thing that he wanted. And now he looks back at it with revisionist history, thinking, man, if I would only have done such and such different. And I'm not knocking Oakley for that, because everybody that watches this has these moments of, man, if I could have only done such and such different. If I can go back in time and do such and such over, I would do this. And I'm not saying for a specific thing, or I'm not saying for everything, but I'm talking about for a specific thing. Like for instance, I have a Janet Jackson story that I used to tell all the time. About this concert, this thing that used to go around called the Budweiser Superfest, when all the hottest groups used to be on tour for this Budweiser thing, and it's drizzling rain, and a fight breaks out because R. Kelly has this young girl around his neck. He tongue kissing her in the mouth. And this girl is like 14, and she an R&B singer, and we like, yo, what is he doing? He just did that in public. I ain't gonna get into that story, but anyway, fight break out, and Janet Jackson is across the rail from me, like, AD, them black rails that they have to separate, right, the crowd from the
right.
And I'm like, hey, Janet, and she looks at me and sucks her teeth, and I say the smoothest thing I have ever said in my life. I'm sorry, Janet. It's Miss Jackson if you nasty. And she looks at me and laughs. Right? She looks at me and laughs. Now, I'm not going to tell the rest of the story, because the rest of the story is not neither here nor there. But it's the thing.
It was your shot.
Yeah, I think Charles Oakley looks at it like, man, if I was just a selfish player, I could have been borderline Hall of Fame. But I was a team player and sacrificed for others, and we still didn't win championships.
All right.
That's why I think Oakley is. That's why I think he's better.
All right. Before we put him to bed, Pause. I heard him say that Ewing wasn't the same player that he was at Georgetown.
Okay.
Like his ferocity, the way he played, whatever, it wasn't the same. And that Ewing would have been a better ball player and so forth. Here's the parts that he fails to remember and to understand, because for the first 3 years of Ewing's career, him and Oakley's not on the same team.
No, he's not.
Right? The first few years of Ewing's career, he comes in as that Georgetown ball player.
As that Marcus Camby type player.
Right. He's absolutely uber athletic.
Bro.
He's uber physicality.
AD, can I stop you right there and just thank you? So I legit want to thank you for saying that. And listen, and I'm not making up something just to be talking.
They used to call him Beast.
Right. Thank you for saying exactly that about Pat Ewing, because a lot of people, all they remember is like the 94, 95, 96 Pat, but they don't talk about the 85, 86, 87, 88 Pat. And there's a major difference. A major difference.
Absolutely. Hold on, Freezie. Give me a second.
I got you. So Pat in 85, 86, 87, sure, Pat had nagging injuries and things of that sort. And so he only played like, whatever. But what I'm going to say to y'all is this. The only player I think is even comparable in comparison to Pat is Joel Embiid. The only player that I've ever seen play NBA basketball since Patrick Ewing's arrival and departure is Joel Embiid. Right? And young Joel Embiid was absolutely a physical freak of nature. Right? But after injuries and things of that sort, you got to kind of play different if you want to play 70, 75 games. And Pat had to change his game if he wanted to play 15 to 20 years. Because if you remember Pat, I think Pat only played, 55 games his rookie year? Pat made him play like 55 games his rookie year, right? So what I'm getting at is I understand where Oakley is coming from, right? But think about this. No player in the NBA is the same player they were when they were 19. Right? 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 No player at 19 is the same player at 28. And if you are, you're not an NBA player no more. That means you have not developed. See, because Pat Ewing at 27, 28 had a deadly spot-up jumper. Right? Pat Ewing at 27, 28 was not fouling out of games. Not like that anyway. He was more, you know what I'm saying? Pat was more of a particular fouler back then. Like Pat didn't waste ticky-tack fouls. Pat used all 6 of his fouls on hard fouls. And I know that don't make sense in some people's mind, but Pat was a smarter defender. Right? Like Pat wasn't racing out to the 3-point line and jumping at 3-pointers and giving up threes. Pat, that wasn't Pat. Right? And I would say to y'all this. Pat Ewing defined an era. The 90s Knicks is not the 90s Knicks. The 90s Knicks is the Pat Ewing, get on my back, I'll carry you as far as I can Knicks. That's what they were. Because I would challenge y'all to this. I would say there is no difference between the 1982 New York Knicks and the 1995 New York Knicks. The only difference is Patrick Ewing. That's the only difference. And if you can remember those rosters of Trent Tucker, Rory Sparrow, Darrell Walker, Louis Orr, Johnny Newman, AD, what's the dude number 34? He changed his number to 7. Obi Toppin, the kid out of Kentucky. The dude at number 7 out of Kentucky threw up in his first training camp practice. The dude the 6'8" dude could jump out the gym.
Oh, stop it! Who you talking about?
The Obi Toppin dude.
Oh my God, Kenny Skywalker.
Yes.
Is that what I come back into, Kenny Skywalker?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Why?
And basically what I was saying is there is no difference in the roster makeup from the 1981 New York Knicks all the way through the 1995 New York Knicks. I would say the talent level was just about the same. The only difference is Pat Ewing carried dead bodies, bro.
Yeah, but they were livelier.
Bernard King, right? You could say Bernard
livelier. King. Yep, but Ewing has Oakley. Bernard doesn't have that. Bernard's second best player is Cartwright.
Right.
Which is an in and out of the lineup Cartwright.
I understand.
He doesn't.
Bill Cartwright had the worst looking. I ain't never seen a man.
And then Ewing also has, an all-star in Starks. We forget that John Starks was an all-star.
Right.
Bernard does not have an all-star guard on his team.
I'm saying this. The 1981 New York Knicks did not have a playoff contender, not a championship contender. What I'm saying is all those rosters, even with Bernard King and all those Louis Orr, whoever, Johnny Walker. Did I say Johnny Walker Red? Is that Johnny Walker or Kenny Walker? Johnny Newman, whoever, right? Those rosters.
Kenny Walker, Johnny Walker Red, it's Johnny Walker Blue.
It's all the same, right? It's all the same. So what I'm saying is this. What I'm saying is this, right? Those teams were not a championship level contender. They were not better than the Hawks. They were not better than the Sixers, Celtics. Who else in the East was good? In the Milwaukee Bucks, a very underrated franchise during the 80s.
Nowhere near.
Right. The Pistons, the Bulls.
The Bucks just couldn't.
They didn't have size, bro.
Well,
they had size, but they didn't use it because didn't they have Jack Sigma and Terry Cummings at one point?
Well, they got Sigma and Cummings, but they were trying to play that big man game and really wanting to have because when they have Bob Lanier's like at the end.
Yeah, like 35. Yeah, I was going to say that.
He's like at the end and with foot troubles and so forth. And remember back then, it's a big man's league.
Yep.
And Sigma's a good big man, but he's not that big man. And when they got Cummings, Cummings was like that piece. Right. That piece. Because remember, they had Marcus Johnson,
Paul Pressey,
Sid Pressey, Sidney Moncrief.
Very underrated players.
They had a lot of they're like a team, like we talked about this as far as teams that should have won an NBA title, or could not should have but could have won an NBA title.
Could have won, yeah.
They belong there.
Yes.
They belong there. They're
one
of those
but
teams.
You see how talented that team. Think about how talented that team is that you just mentioned, right? Right? And then think about this. Think about how talented the Knicks were. There's no comparison, right?
Which Knicks?
The 80s. During that same stitch of time. That same stitch of time that you mentioned. Right?
The Knicks weren't talented.
But that's my point. That's the point that I'm getting at. Right?
Okay.
And then you add, Savvy D is in the building. What's good? You add Pat Ewing to that disgusting roster, and all of a sudden, this franchise has life, right? And I
You
know people
add
are going to say, but
you
didn't you
add
draft him?
Ewing, and you don't know what to do with him.
They
It's a
played him at power
running
forward.
it's a running theme with this organization. You have a piece, whether it's Ewing, whoever, Randall, you don't know what to do with him.
Right.
You
Bernard
know,
King,
but
you
but
don't
let's
know what to do with him.
let's stay in that moment. Ewing at time, you draft Ewing, and in less than a year, you're making him a power forward.
Yep. Yep.
You're following this trend of the Twin Towers.
Yep.
And not only are you doing Twin Towers, look who you pushing him out of center for.
Yep.
Like the
And
rest of the
it's not just him, but look at all the bigs on the roster.
yeah, look at all the bigs on the roster. It's not like when Houston drafted Sampson and then they got Elijah on and was like, hey Ralph, you're not the power forward. You know,
Right.
even Ralph was like, okay,
Yep.
that makes sense.
Yep.
Not in reverse, not in New York. You draft Ewing, who, and let's understand this. Not before, not since had teams lined up to get a ball player like this.
Right.
Not Michael Jordan, not Hakeem Olajuwon, not Barkley, not
Nobody.
any of
Nobody.
the guys with great, not Isaiah, nobody.
Right.
Not since
Kareem.
Lou Alcindor, not since
Yep.
Kareem.
Yep. Yep.
See what I'm saying? Like that's how good this dude was.
Right.
He gets hurt, and his aggressiveness. Remember, he comes in and he'd never lost before.
Right.
He's looking around like all these ham sandwiches.
Right. And he's never had bad coaching before either. That's the one thing I've been wanting to point out with Pat Ewing. Pat
Hubie
Ewing
wasn't a
had
bad coach. Hubie was just super stubborn. They didn't know what to do with him. So for him, he was bad for him.
he was right. But that's my point. Because listen, Hubie Brown, and this is all due respect to Hubie Brown, but Hubie Brown is Tom Thibodeau. I saw it with my own eyes. Hubie Brown was wanting to play old school Red Holtzman type basketball in the 80s. Right? And nobody wanted to see a mid 60s, early 70s type of basketball, bro. In the 80s, you had to showcase your talent. It was no longer about team basketball where everybody touch it. The Bulls had Michael Jordan.
Yeah, but they sat. Here's part of the thing with when you have management that has a lack of thinking out of the box. Okay.
Okay.
Remember, before Bernard goes bananas, the year before they lost to Philly.
Yep. Philly
They
bullied
lose
us.
to Philly. Right. They lose to Philly in the first round. Okay. You got Bernard, who's what, 25, I think, at the time?
25.
24, 25-ish, something like that.
Yep.
Now you're going into the next season.
Yep.
Look who you bring him back to battle with.
Nobody.
See,
I'm waiting for you. I'm waiting for you to say somebody.
That's the sin of it. That's the sin of it. You know what you have in this dude. Like
right.
you're like, you know what? Was a little unsure about moving him for Michael Ray, but you know what? It really worked out because he's really reconnected back with the city.
You know what the real sin? AD, man, look, man. Let me get to the root cause. Let me get to the root of this. The Knicks are as a disaster, and they have been forever. And this thing make me mad because at this time that AD is talking, the Lakers want to move Magic Johnson to the point, but they already have an all-star level point guard, right? Right? You know what the Knicks do? Nah, we good. We just gonna roll with, Darryl Walker. When the Lakers were giving away Norm Nixon, whose wife was working in New York.
Yeah. Norm, they send Norm to Death Valley.
To the San Diego Clippers.
To the San Diego Clippers.
Bro, and New York.
I remember Debbie Allen's working in New York. She's doing Fame. Norm even had a part in Fame.
Remember
when he was dancing?
Yes. AD, this is the type of stuff. That's why when I do the Knicks at Night podcast, the Knicks Morning Drive, when cats be talking to me about Uncle Freezie, you don't know what you talking about, man. You got to give the front office. You got to be patient, man. I ain't got to be patient with nothing.
We've seen it over and
over. Because the Lakers were trying to give away Norm Nixon. Right?
It came to a point where it was like it's not gonna work. And I'm like, how doesn't it work? You already won a championship with it.
Right. What are we doing?
But Magic needed to be who Magic needed to be.
Right. Magic needed the ball. Magic basically was Luka back then, and they were trying to keep the ball in Jalen Brunson's hands.
And you're not there to capitalize on that.
Right.
You're not there. You rather draft a Darryl Walker or Trent Tucker. You'd rather draft a Darryl Walker or a Trent Tucker instead of trading that for Norm Nixon. Because that's basically what they did. They traded Nixon for San Diego. What was Byron Scott? Byron Scott was what? Byron Scott is a first rounder. What is it? Top 10? Something like that?
Yes.
I can't remember what, but they drafted him like in a top status, like a top first round.
They drafted him
status.
number 4. They drafted him number 4 overall.
No, I thought it was 4, but I didn't want to put it out there. Okay.
Yes.
4.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
The Knicks, right around that time, I think the Knicks drafted Trent Tucker at like 6 or something like that. And I know they drafted Darryl Walker in 83 at 14, I think.
At 12?
Something like that.
You know who the number 4 pick, it wasn't 14. We drafted Darryl Walker at 12. The number 14 pick in that draft was a dude named Clyde Drexler.
Right, Clyde. Right. That I know, but I'm saying like in these back-to-back years, when LA,
mad, man.
Right, when LA was trying to move on from Norm,
right,
the Knicks were willing to draft. I think they draft what? Oh my God! No, this dude is a championship dude.
Right.
This dude is a championship dude at that age. How old was Norm? 29?
29-ish, yeah. 29-ish.
29, 30?
And the Lakers were making up stuff like, we want to move Magic there because Norm can't stay healthy. Bro, a sprained knee, sprained ankle. Get out of here.
But to show you how a move like that reverberates, right? Hold that, right? Because they don't do that move or make an attempt to that Norm move a couple years later, 2 years later, they then trade their top pick for, wait for it, Gerald washed up Henderson from Boston.
Yep. And a lot of y'all in the chat know the name Gerald Henderson, but you know Gerald Henderson Jr., right? Gerald Henderson Jr., first round pick by the Charlotte Bobcats. We're talking about the original Theo Pinson, Gerald Henderson from the Boston Celtics.
Gerald Henderson was a good ball player at one point. A very good ball player.
Right.
He wasn't the dude that you trade your overall number 1 pick. When they made that trade, I think Ewing was hurt.
Yep.
At the time, right? If I remember correctly, Ewing was hurt. So it was like, what are you trying to do? Your main guy is not even here.
Right.
What are you trying to do? And that pick becomes what? That pick becomes Scottie Pippen or some shit like that.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Cause that pick was
Now,
the number
mind you,
7.
we were not going to draft Scottie Pippen, right? We're
It
not going to
didn't
draft him.
matter. You
But
needed the pick. You
the
did not need
value of the
Gerald
pick,
Henderson.
the value of the pick is what we're getting. The Knicks were not going to draft Scottie Pippen in the 87 draft, right? I know that, right? I'm not being naive here, right? But what I'm getting at is how do you just give away that pick for Gerald Henderson?
Crazy.
Right. And so let me go back to the 82 draft, right? The 82 draft, James Worthy is the number 1 pick. Terry Cummings is the number 2 pick. Dominique Wilkins is the number 3 pick, right? After that, things get a little crazy. Billy Garrett was a bust.
That right there lets you know what the thought process is in the great white height
Yes.
ball player. Because
Billy Garrett.
Terry Cummings, did you say Terry Cummings or Pat Cummings?
Terry Cummings.
Oh, okay. My bad. I thought you said Pat Cummings.
Terry Cummings.
Okay.
Terry Cummings was
okay.
and he was, and at the time DePaul was at the top of the basketball.
Right. No, I thought you said Pat Cummings. My bad.
No. And then number 5, LaSalle Thompson was a good NBA player, right? But hit the Knicks in that same draft, right? When dudes are getting scoring machine forwards, right? The Knicks draft Trent Tucker, number 6.
From Minnesota?
Mind you, at the time, the Knicks need a point guard. This is 1982. The Knicks need a point guard, right? The Knicks need a point guard. You know who they didn't take? Lafayette Lever. You remember Lafayette Lever?
Of course.
You remember Sleepy Floyd?
Lafayette Lever is like Lowry.
Yep.
Back then, because he could do a little of everything.
Yep.
But
effectively.
He could really do. They had a nice backcourt with him and Michael Adams, Denver.
Yes. Small man. Michael Adams out of UCLA.
Yeah, from out of right. Is it UCLA or is it or did he go to Boston College? I thought he went to Boston College, or am I thinking Dana Barrows? I think I'm thinking Dana Barrows.
Dana Barrows is Boston College.
Right. But they had a nice backcourt. I haven't thought about that in a long time. Lafayette Lever and Michael Adams. They had a nice backcourt, and look at them. They couldn't, even with that backcourt, they couldn't do nothing.
Right, and you know what? And so this is the thing. This is the thing that I wanted to mention about that draft, right? So the Knicks take Trent Tucker when they needed a point guard, right? Lafayette Lever goes off the board, right? John Bagley goes off the board. Sleepy Floyd goes off the board. Terry Teagle goes off the board. Terry Teagle was more of a combo guard, right? But Ricky Pierce is in that draft. You remember Ricky Pierce, the sharpshooter?
Absolutely, sharpshooter Ricky Pierce.
And number 20
played a long time.
Number 20 in that draft, Paul Pressey. But we take Trent freaking Tucker.
And Don Nelson eventually gets them both. Gets Pressey and Pierce.
Yep.
He eventually gets them both.
And runs an offense where everybody can dribble, pass, and shoot.
Yeah.
Everybody can dribble, pass, and shoot. So now you can't double team anybody because everybody can make the pass to the open guy.
Nelson was a good coach.
A great coach, in my opinion.
No, especially offensively. Nelson was a good coach. Nelson I think he was just bad luck at early, especially with those Milwaukee teams.
Right.
I think he was just bad luck at early, because if you look at those teams consistently won. They consistently won
in the regular season.
They consistently won. They were always made the playoffs, but they happened to keep going up against the best of the best.
The best of the best. A lot of Boston Celtics
at the time.
Yep.
Yeah, a lot of those against Philly, I believe, one year. I mean, You know, it was just one of those things.
There was a game I remember Milwaukee playing against Philly, and
Because
they
remember,
came playing Philly to a T, but their shots wasn't going. They had the most wide open shots I can ever remember, and shots were just not going down. And it happens to every team.
pull up Terry Cummings' numbers when you get a chance. Pull up Terry Cummings.
I got you. I got him right
He
here.
has
16
like
and
from
7.
his right from I think is he drafted by San Diego? I think he's drafted by the Clippers.
Yep. No. Yep. He said. Yep. Drafted by the Clippers. Yep.
Is he overall number 2?
Number 2 behind Worthy.
2?
You know,
Right.
Worthy had to be
He's
the number
2?
1 pick. Yeah.
Right.
Worthy was
Right.
the best player in college basketball at the time.
And he spends how long on the Clippers with his numbers?
Not very long. He plays 2 years with the Clippers and then is traded to Milwaukee.
That's how dysfunctional the Clippers were.
Yep. Yep.
What's his numbers
With the Clippers,
in those 2 years? Yeah.
With the Clippers, he averaged, let me see. With the Clippers, he averaged 23 and 10. Led the NBA in offensive rebounds with the Clippers.
23 and 10, and you let that walk out of your hands after 2 years. You should fold up shop.
Well, they did. They moved to Los Angeles.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I see why.
Yeah, yeah.
I see why.
Bro, I cannot believe, bro. I honestly can't. And so what I'm saying to Knicks fans is this: I am not a Knicks hater. I am mortally and eternally frustrated with how easy moves are not completed with the Knicks.
That's what it comes down to.
Right, like for instance, right? Disgruntled players and disgruntled teams, relationships are going to be broken in the NBA. Things happen, and you never know why because you're focused on your team. You don't know what go on in other franchises, right? All you know is that Norm Nixon is available and Bernard King doesn't have a point guard.
He has Rory Sparrow
And Darryl Walker
and Ray Williams
and Ray Williams, who I liked at the time. I liked the Ray
I was
Williams draft
not.
at the time,
He was one of those inconsistent players. Good 1 minute, you know.
Emmanuel quickly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's Ray Williams. Emmanuel quickly, bro.
Okay. This team is way more talented than that team, but just
yeah.
I mean, those teams, don't get me wrong, you know, one man doesn't do all the scoring, one man doesn't do all the rebounding. They did get to the playoffs. It wasn't like Bernard scored everything and had it whatever. So obviously,
was Norm Nixon not a great NBA point guard?
Yes, he was for that time. Yes, he was.
For that era, right? How do you pass on Norm Nixon?
Absolutely.
If you're the Knicks, how do you pass on Norm Nixon, Sleepy Floyd, Fat Lever? How do you pass on all these guys?
It just came down to their instability and the people that they had at the top making, you know, the draft evaluation. The draft date, like who, you know, when you look at it, but it wasn't just the Knicks. It was a lot of teams in that era. You're like, who?
Right.
Why?
Right.
Like,
but then there were a lot of teams that got lucky, right? Like Dallas. Dallas drafted Derek Harper, Rolando Blackman. They brought in James Donaldson. They had Mark Aguirre. I mean, come on. Some teams just hit. And then the Knicks,
it's the pieces that they have, and it speaks to they're not getting lucky per se. Like look at OKC. Look at OKC from 2000 what? From when does KD enter? 2007? right?
Right. But look at it before that though. Before KD, right?
Right.
They draft Nick Collinson,
Okay.
and the Nick Collinson thing starts this pyramid of everything gets better exponentially every year, right? Everything
For
starts to
like
get
what?
better.
For like what? 6, 7 years in a row.
They smashed the draft,
They're smashing the draft. They're
right?
drafting. They've drafted in 4 years. In 3 years, they drafted 3 Hall of Famers,
Right. Right. Right.
and maybe Ibaka is a borderline Hall of Famer.
Maybe. Yeah. Yeah. Ibaka. They drafted Reggie Jackson. They drafted Cameron Payne. They drafted Eric Mena. Like every draft pick everybody they selected, right? Every pick that they
This
selected contributed to that roster.
their sin is not having anything to show for it.
Right. Right.
That's where they're. That's what. If you're looking at who's their general manager? Is it Sam Presti?
Sam Presti. He's their president.
Now, if you're looking at Presti, and mind you, it's not just one person that makes the maneuvers, it's him and his peoples. Because if you were to hire someone like
But
that,
it's his vision though.
it's his vision, right? So if you hire someone like that, you hire him and his vision and his people,
Right.
right?
Right.
If you're looking at this dude, you got to look at this guy and say, all right, I know you know talent, especially the obvious talent, especially the home run, right? The KD was the home run, right? The Harden, a lot of people didn't know the Harden was going to be that good.
Right.
But the Harden is the home run.
Right.
Okay. The Westbrook couldn't shoot.
Right. I think
Still can't shoot.
I think Westbrook is the home run.
Okay,
And the reason why I say Westbrook is the home run because OKC had the forethought to move him from shooting guard to point guard, even though he played shooting guard at UCLA next to Darren Collinson.
I think that might have been part of it. You know what? I think that might have been part of the problem.
It was definitely part of the problem.
That might have been part of the problem with them because
he is not
to
a point
me, he's not a true point like that.
But they said
and
the same thing about Fat Lever. They said the same thing about Fat Lever too. Though.
No, but especially in those prime years, right? Remember that Golden State series? They're up, what, 3-1, 3-2?
And they ran the same play to Clay over and over and over again.
And the leadership down there, they didn't know how to get KD the ball. They was throwing away the ball. It was the worst kind of.
Scott Brooks got out coached.
He got out coached.
Yep.
Then 3 months later, KD's joining opposite teams.
Right.
He's switching sides.
Right.
That's a part of sports history that I don't think there needs to be a documentary on just that alone.
Right.
From that series being up 3-2, the relationship with the players, and was KD ever really, was his heart really in it in that series?
I
because how do you go to the next team, to the same team 3-4 months later? Was his heart ever really in it?
I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna say this to that point. I think KD knew that coaching staff and roster was a mess. Right? That's what I think. And
the roster?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Stop it.
No. I'm not saying talent-wise. I'm talking about fit. I'm not talking about talent. Because the Knicks in the early 90s had some talented rosters. Were they a fit for Patrick Ewing? No. Right? What I'm saying is the double team comes towards KD, right? KD kicks it out to Russell Westbrook, Serge Ibaka, Thabo Sefolosha, Andre Robertson for 3. Where's your floor spacing at? Where's your floor spacing? You got to depend on Serge Ibaka Serge Ibaka is your best 3-point shooter in the starting five outside of KD.
Mm-hmm.
You feel me? So you need offense. They're triple teaming Kevin Durant, and you give it to Kendrick Perkins. You feel me? So I'm not saying that the roster wasn't talented. I'm saying Russell Westbrook was hit or miss as a open shooter.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
The talent was never an issue with them. It was fit and clutch moments. Right? The reason why the Milwaukee Bucks, like what you mentioned in the early 80s and the mid 80s, never won a championship, it wasn't because they didn't have talent.
Yeah, but
it was because they couldn't come through in moments.
Freezie, when you the best player, Freezie, okay?
You got to
when
overcome everything.
Freezie, when you the best guy, Freezie, you gotta overcome it. You gotta. It is what it is. It can't be everybody else's fault. It can't be everybody else's fault. You the guy.
So are you gonna blame Pat Ewing for that too?
I think at the end of the day, do I blame him in my heart? Do I blame him in my heart? No, because I think he needed. I think it was a combination of things in those moments.
Okay.
Combination of things. The first thing is they weren't as dominant at home as they were the year before.
Okay.
When they should have had home court advantage. Mind you,
right.
The year before, I think the Knicks were 37-4 or 38-3.
Okay.
Something like that. The following year, the 94 year, I think they're like 33-8.
Okay.
They're good, but they're not as dominant.
Okay.
Okay. When it was announced that, well, when we not announced, but when we clinched against Indiana, it never dawned to me that we didn't have home court advantage.
You better come back to bite you, right?
I didn't even care who we played.
Right.
I was such in celebratory mode, whatever. It just seemed like, okay, game one gonna be in New York, whatever.
Right.
It's not until like maybe the next day or something that we find out, oh, we gotta go to Houston.
Yeah.
How did that happen? Oh, we weren't as good at home. Our record wasn't as good, especially at home, the way it should have been. Because I think in 94, the Knicks won 57 games, I think.
Yep.
And in 93, they won 61.
Yep.
I think they have the franchise high. I think the 93 team has the franchise high in wins. Something like that. 60, 61, something like that. And they had home court advantage right through.
Right. Right.
So it was that plus there's no shame to being outdone by Hakeem Olajuwon.
Right.
There's no shame in that. It's not that Ewing was not there. He just, in some of those moments, especially when he comes down to which was in it's game
Pat Ewing
7
stepped up. Pat Ewing set an NBA Finals record for blocks in the NBA Final.
Yeah, and rebounds. I get
35
I get it.
blocks in 7 games.
I get it, but he needed to. His game 7 was not there.
In
His
my
game
mind,
6 was not there.
In my mind, Hakeem Olajuwon is the greatest defensive center of all time.
And that's fine. And that's fine. But Ewing needed to Freezy.
See
The
how I keep
OJ
making
game is
excuses for
Ewing's
Pat?
bet. No, I think you're making excuses. The OJ game is Ewing's best game, which is Game 5,
Yeah.
and I believe he's 39. He's 30 points, 9 rebounds, 7, whatever. Dominant game. That's it for him as far as he doesn't take it to another level in 6 and 7.
Right. Starks
And you
does though.
had and you had 2 chances.
Starks does
Starks does
in
in
game.
game 6,
Right.
and
And Derek Harper in game 7, but it wasn't
a
enough.
fair question, a very, very fair question. And I remember we talked about a show as far as if you could have a sit down moment with, one of your favorite ball players about situations or whatever,
Right.
and have a fair conversation, what would it be like and what would it be? And I was like, and we were like, could we have that conversation? I said, I think that was the thing. Could we do it? And who would we do it with? And I said, well, for me, it would be Ewing.
Right.
Because while Starks is going 2 for 18, I need to understand the bench like conversations like
AD, but here's the thing with Starks in 2 for 18. And to me, I think it was fate reminding Starks that he was a nobody. Right?
oh God, no, you didn't say that.
Here's the thing. Of all those 18 shots that you saw Starks take, none of those shots look like bad shots.
Oh no, that's not true.
Those shots look
I remember that.
they look like shots that just didn't go in.
No, I remember that. No, I remember that clear as day. And I know someone can say, "Oh, you've seen the play, AD, you've watched it, whatever." I don't watch it that often. Every now and again, I'll go back to it. Yes, I've been that kind of fan. Yes, I'll revisit the car accident. Yes, forgive me.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
He was just, and some of those moments was like, no.
Yeah.
Just no. He needed, if nothing else, Freezy, he needed a breather. It's the same thing when we talked about with the Dallas game the other day, as far as, doing something different. He needed a breather.
Okay.
They needed to switch strategies. If nothing else, I get it. He got you there. You wouldn't have gotten that far without him. But a little something, a little change in it. You did have Blackman on the bench.
Oh my God.
Something. You did have Hubert Davis on the bench. Hubert Davis saved the season.
Hubert Davis. Okay. I'm with you on
Hubert Davis saved the season.
Hubert Davis. I could concede and acquiesce to that. But Rolando Blackman is a perpetual playoff choker.
He's a Hall of Famer. He's near Hall of Fame status. He had a lot of good seasons, Freezy. Let's remember that.
He is a regular season.
We didn't know. Not to cut you, Freezy. We didn't know he wasn't going to be as good as he was with Dallas. The injury, whatever, it had zapped him. He wasn't that player, and we didn't know that. You couldn't fault the Knicks for trying to get him. Is when we got him, we saw, we was like, oh, okay. Like, it didn't take John Starks too long to take his spot.
Right. Rolando Blackman may be one of the worst additions we ever made. And I will never forgive the Knicks. when Golden State was trying to break up Run TMC. Remember Golden State was trying to break up Run TMC? And the Knicks allowed Mitch Richmond to go to Sacramento instead of giving up a first-round pick. And I think that first-round pick wound up being Greg Anthony. You telling me you wouldn't trade Greg Anthony for Mitch Richmond? And these are the type of things that frustrate me half to pieces, bro.
It's
whatever year Sprewell came out. What year did Sprewell
it's
come
the
out?
people they put. It's the people they put in position. Look. Okay, let's fast forward a little bit. Melo after Indiana series. Okay. You know what they need. Lowry's there available up in Toronto.
Yep.
You don't pull the Lowry trade.
Because you don't want to give up the first round picks.
Because you don't want to get the first round pick, which Lowry at that time is how old? 26?
Yeah. Right.
So Toronto got a full decade out of Lowry.
Yep.
Which you could have had.
Yep.
Which would have preserved Melo in those years.
Right.
And your team would have been better off because that's exactly what you needed.
Right.
That's just their history when it comes to whoever their management is in those moments.
Right.
It hasn't, Freezie, let's be honest. It hasn't been that difficult. You can't just say, well, oh my God, we ain't got no talent. They had no opportunities. You've seen opportunities pass you by. In what world, Freezie? You are the head of the New York Knicks organization, and Brooklyn is going to get KD and Kyrie on your watch.
Bro.
I'd burn the city down first.
I'd burn the city down first.
On my watch?
And sit on the curb. Hey, you burn it down and sit on the curb. Wait for the man to
sit on the curb. What?
Yeah, I did it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I did it. Yeah, I did it. Yeah, I did it. You ain't playing for me. You ain't playing for me. You ain't playing for nobody.
Bim. Right? But my thing is, AD, how in 92 do the Knicks take Hubert Davis over Latrell Sprewell? Right? And then Golden State selects Sprewell, right? Now you have Hubert
They
Davis.
thought they needed shooting, which they did. And in fairness, they thought they needed shooting. And Hubert Davis did have a good college career. But again, it's watching like you're scouting, like you're how are you taking Hubert Davis over Latrell Sprewell?
Right. How are you?
It's a nice player, yeah. It's a need, yeah, but
right. But you knew you were not gonna play him. See, the thing is with the Knicks, and this is why I'm perpetually frustrated with the Knicks. And so chat, listen, y'all don't be mad at me, chat. Show me some empathy, right? Show me some empathy, right?
Because show Blue Freezie some love.
Yeah, because I'm not
Blue Freezie.
Yeah, because I'm not frustrated with the Knicks for the sake of being frustrated in general. I'm frustrated because it's Heartbreak Hotel for us. Right? 92, Mitch Richmond is available, right? And since he plays in an offensive system, and this is the mindset of GMs back then, they're like, if you play in an offensive system, you won't be able to play in a defensive system. Now, imagine how stupid this sounds to you today. But back then, when the Knicks, AD, I'm gonna jog your memory a little bit. So the Golden State Warriors the Golden State Warriors have a small forward shooting guard named Chris Mullin, who had some alcohol problems out there in the Bay Area. Some run-in with the police, you know what I'm saying? Some stuff.
Well, he had those problems. He had those problems in St. John's, but
St. John's, but I'm talking about 1987, 88.
Mm-hmm.
The Knicks need a shooting small forward to space the floor for Pat Ewing. The asking price for Chris Mullin is a first-round pick, and nobody around the NBA wants to pay a first-round pick.
And Gerald Wilkins.
Right. And so the Knicks are like, no, we're good. We have Johnny Newman and Kenny Walker. They pass on it, and then the very next year, they trade a first-round pick for Kiki Vandeweghe. Kiki Vandeweghe. Right? And so...
Well, to their credit, though, I'm gonna keep it a buck. I'm gonna keep it a buck, just to be totally transparent.
Okay.
You're talking about two different GM regimes.
Okay.
The Bianchi made the Kiki Vandeweghe and so forth trade. That's his regime. The year that you're talking about is right before Bianchi.
Right.
And that year, Gerald Wilkins, I remember he averaged, I think, 19.2 points. Right? It's the only time he is his best. No, because they sucked. They only won 23 games. They sucked. He did that because he was the only one there. Right? That's the only reason why. But it looked like he was going to be something.
Right.
And Mullin was having his issues right along that line, right along that time.
Injuries, alcoholism, all of it.
And Bianchi's not the general manager. I think that general manager, like, it's an interim period. I think that's his name is Sterling. I've mentioned it before.
Right.
His name is Sterling. I'm not Rob, but his name is Sterling. He's the one that also made the Gerald Henderson maneuver. So just to keep it fair, as far as, keep the record straight.
Also, the dude that brought in Stu Jackson. Right?
Right. Bianchi brought in Stu. Well, no, actually, no. Patino brought in Stu. Patino and Stu come from... Stu was part of Patino's coaching line.
No, Stu Jackson was working for the NBA.
No, he went to the NBA after.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Stu becomes the coach after Patino leaves. After Patino goes to Kentucky. It's Stu, then McLeod.
Right. And the reason why Stu gets the job is because Patino leaving was unexpected. So there was no time for a full-time coaching search.
Well, I don't know how it can be unexpected. You gave the coach permission. You gave the college permission to talk to the coach. He was under contract to the Knicks.
Right. You didn't think that was going to happen, though, bro. Come on, man.
How could I not? Hold on a second. Do you know that movie with Robert Redford, Woody Harrelson, and what's her name? Oh God, her name is skipping me right now. She was in A Few Good Men. You know who I'm talking about, right?
Yes.
But the theory of it is
Demi Moore.
Robert Redford offers Woody Harrelson $1 million to sleep with his wife.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
They concoct it, whatever, he takes the $1 million. Is it safe to say he slept with your wife?
Right.
You took that $1 million.
Right.
Is it safe to say he slept with your wife? Of course.
Of course.
You don't make that move, Freezie. Come on.
I understand where you're going.
You don't make that move, Freezie, and then play games. Remember that movie being like, well,
No, I understand where you're going with it. My deal though is, and so, and Hector says, and so Hector says, would Mitch Richmond have helped us beat those Bulls, Pacers, Heat teams in the 90s? Absolutely.
Yes. Yes.
Absolutely. Not just the Pacers and the Bulls, but the Heat wouldn't even have been an issue for us. Right? Because Mitch Richmond was a big game. He was, when the shooting guards faced off against each other, Mitch Richmond was that dude. If Sacramento played Portland, Mitch Richmond was going to house Clyde Drexler. If Sacramento played Indiana, Mitch Richmond was going to house Reggie Miller. He was that guy. Now, you don't get into the Hall of Fame, right, on bad teams with no accomplishments if you're not a big game guy. And here's the thing. If you like Anthony Edwards right now with all his athleticism, now Mitch Richmond wasn't as athletic as
nowhere near
Anthony Edwards.
Nowhere near.
But when you're talking about though that Mitch Richmond, Blue Edwards, Anthony Edwards body type at the 2, Mitch Richmond was probably the originator of that.
He could outscore.
Yeah. And
Richmond, his game would have worked with Ewing's game because they would have been able to do the pick and roll.
Yep. And Mitch Richmond for his career was a great 3-point shooter. So all those things that you ask like that you wanted, and Mitch Richmond, to his credit, was a decent defender. Was he Joe Dumars? No. But was Joe Dumars a Mitch Richmond type scorer? No. Right? AD, I got to get out of here, sir. I got previous engagements, man.
Oh, wow. Is it that time already?
Yeah. And quite frankly, the New York Knicks have turned my stomach.
What are you talking about? They're winning.
No, I'm talking
They're
about
winning.
I'm talking
the history. Okay.
Yeah,
okay. Well, that's what we do every week.
How the Knicks did not trade for Norm Nixon. How they didn't draft Lafayette Lever. Bro, come on. How they didn't draft Johnny Dawkins out of Duke over Kenny Walker.
Well, I wouldn't have drafted Johnny Dawkins either.
I would have drafted him over Kenny
Walker.
Walker.
Yeah, but I didn't.
Nah, you're talking about.
Yeah, I would have drafted him over Walker, but I wouldn't have drafted him per se. He's a big time college ball player. There's a Freezie back then. Freezie, a lot of those big time college. No, a lot of those big time college dudes. No, a lot of those big time college dudes. I mean, they wasn't the truth.
Right.
They just wasn't. A lot of those guys. Look at. God rest the dead. Wayman Tisdale is the number 2 overall pick.
Yeah.
Benoit Benjamin,
but not Hall of Famer.
No, Benoit there are a lot of these guys. It was the prudent general managers. You know what I'm saying? What's my dude in Chicago? The Wayne Embreys and these other would just sift through
Jerry Krause
and Jerry Krause and get guys and from Detroit. There's a lot. The Clippers drafted in the top whatever for as long as I could remember.
Right.
They could not win a lick. It's not about getting the best draft pick. It's the people that you have in place. And you know what? Look, telling you, this is that dude. And I'm staking my job on it.
Johnny Dawkins was an all-star.
Yeah, but he wasn't that guy, though. He just wasn't. I mean, I get it. There's guys that have been all-star, this and third, but when I'm thinking of team construction, team building, especially from that era, that's like Sedale 3. Remember when the Sedale 3 led Lakers was up 2-0 on Charles Barkley and the Phoenix Suns.
Yep.
It was like the world was about to come to an end.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
And then Phoenix rebounded and beat them 3 straight or whatever, but they were up 2-0, about to send Phoenix home.
Right.
But when you think of Sedell 3, do you think of Sedell 3 as like, all right? I'll tell you another player that I always liked, but he got casted in a role he shouldn't have been in. Mo Williams.
Yep.
Remember when Mo Williams got to Cleveland?
Yep.
Became an all-star.
Yep.
All of a sudden, they got Mo Williams like that. He's the number 2 to LeBron. I'm like, no, Mo's good. Mo should have been like the 3. The number 3,
Mo
not
Williams
as
been
the...
the 5th guy. Mo Williams was...
No, but he was better than that. He could shoot. His mid-range game, I mean, especially against the Knicks. Well, everyone against the Knicks is, looks like whatever. But I remember that at periods, I mean, his mid-range game was deadly. He could absolutely shoot the ball.
But AD, what I'm saying though is in the '86 draft, when you take in the '86 draft when you take Kenny Walker, nobody would dispute that Kenny Walker was the worst draft pick we ever made, right? Because you take him at 5, and then Ron Harper goes at 8, Roy Topley goes at 7, Johnny Dawkins goes at 10, John Sally goes at 11, Hot Rod Williams goes at 12, Pearl Washington goes at 13, Walter Berry, Del Curry, Buck Johnson, Scott Skiles, Arvydas Sabonis, Mark Price, man, Dennis Rodman, man, come on, AD. And we took Kenny Walker. All those dudes went directly after Kenny Walker.
I get it. Again, Freezie, who you with? Who you got making those decisions?
My stomach is turning itself upside down.
So let's conclude. Let's conclude there. Let's conclude there. Round and round. Let's conclude there, Freezie. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen out there, for joining Freezie and myself on another Blanche Tears Sunday journey. I don't even know where the time went, Freezie. It's 1:00.
The time flies, bro. Time flies. Can we get the catchphrase before we go?
Absolutely. Look for me in the whirlwind.
Them. All right, party people.
Garvey.
Peace.